Sihle Lonzi and Gayton McKenzie have just ignited the most explosive political battle South Africa has witnessed this year, with accusations of government failure, criminal past references, and promises of parliamentary warfare that could reshape the entire landscape of South African politics forever. What started as a simple critique about illegal immigration policy has erupted into a full-scale political war that exposes the deepest fractures in South Africa's democratic institutions. This isn't just another Twitter spat between politicians. This is a fundamental clash between two radically different visions of leadership, accountability, and what it means to serve the South African people in a time of unprecedented crisis. Sihle Lonzi, the fearless economic freedom fighter's Member of Parliament, threw the first punch with surgical precision. He didn't just question Gayton McKenzie's commitment to tackling illegal immigration. He systematically dismantled McKenzie's entire political brand with one devastating accusation that McKenzie talks tough on social media while failing to introduce a single piece of legislation in Parliament. But Lonzi didn't stop there. He suggested that McKenzie, the leader of the Patriotic Alliance, is more interested in enjoying ministerial perks and privileges than doing the actual hard work of governance that South Africans desperately need. The response from Gayton McKenzie was swift and cutting. McKenzie, whose political journey from convicted criminal to populist leader has captivated and divided South Africa for years, fired back by suggesting that Lonzi was simply copying the tactics of more senior EFF leaders. He dismissed Lonzi's critique as imitation rather than genuine political substance, essentially calling him a political apprentice trying to sound like his masters. But then Sihle Lonzi delivered the knockout blow that sent shockwaves through South African political circles. In a statement loaded with historical weight and contemporary significance, Lonzi declared that government is not a numbers gang. This wasn't just political rhetoric. This was a direct, calculated reference to McKenzie's criminal past and the Patriotic Alliance's tough-on-crime image. The phrase cut through years of political posturing and struck at the heart of South Africa's ongoing struggle with political legitimacy and public trust. To understand why this moment matters so profoundly, we need to examine the broader context of South African politics and the unique backgrounds of these two political figures. Gayton McKenzie's story reads like a political thriller. He spent years in prison for bank robbery before transforming himself into a motivational speaker, author, and eventually a political leader. His Patriotic Alliance party has built its entire identity around being tough on crime, tough on corruption, and tough on illegal immigration. McKenzie has positioned himself as the voice of working-class South Africans who feel abandoned by traditional political parties. The Patriotic Alliance emerged during a period when South Africans were becoming increasingly frustrated with high crime rates, unemployment, and what many perceive as an immigration crisis. McKenzie tapped into these anxieties with populist messaging that promised simple solutions to complex problems. He became particularly vocal about illegal immigration, claiming that undocumented foreign nationals were taking jobs from South Africans and contributing to crime in townships and urban areas. Sihle Lonzi represents a completely different political tradition. As a member of the Economic Freedom Fighters, he comes from a party that champions radical economic transformation, land redistribution, and confrontational politics aimed at challenging what they see as white privilege and capitalist exploitation. The EFF, led by Julius Malema, has built its reputation on being the most aggressive opposition party in Parliament, known for disrupting proceedings, walking out of important sessions, and using provocative language to highlight what they consider systemic injustices. The clash between Lonzi and McKenzie represents more than personal animosity. It reflects fundamental disagreements about how South Africa should address its most pressing challenges. McKenzie's approach focuses on law and order, border control, and what he calls practical solutions that appeal to voters who feel threatened by crime and economic competition. Lonzi's approach emphasizes structural transformation, accountability from government officials, and challenging the entire system rather than working within it. The immigration debate that sparked this confrontation touches on some of South Africa's most sensitive political nerves. The country hosts millions of immigrants from across Africa, many of whom fled poverty, war, or political persecution in their home countries. While South Africa's constitution and international law recognize the rights of refugees and asylum seekers, public opinion has become increasingly hostile toward foreign nationals, particularly during economic downturns. Politicians across the spectrum have exploited these tensions for electoral gain. The Patriotic Alliance has made opposition to illegal immigration a central pillar of its political platform, with McKenzie regularly making statements about deportations, border security, and protecting South African jobs. However, Lonzi's accusation that McKenzie has failed to translate this rhetoric into actual legislation exposes a critical gap between campaign promises and parliamentary performance. This gap between talk and action has become a defining feature of South African politics. Voters consistently express frustration with leaders who make grand promises during election campaigns but fail to deliver concrete results once in office. The country's unemployment rate remains among the highest in the world, corruption continues to plague government institutions, and service delivery failures affect millions of citizens daily. Lonzi's promise to take McKenzie to the cleaners in Parliament represents more than political theatre. It signals a potential shift toward greater accountability and oversight of government ministers. If Lonzi follows through on his threat to scrutinize McKenzie's legislative record, committee attendance, and policy proposals, it could establish a new precedent for how opposition parties hold the governing coalition accountable. The significance of this confrontation extends beyond the immediate participants. South Africa's political landscape has been dominated by the African National Congress for 3 decades, but recent elections have shown growing support for smaller parties like the EFF and Patriotic Alliance. These parties appeal to different constituencies but share a common frustration with traditional politics and established institutions. What do you think about this explosive political confrontation? Do you believe politicians should be held more accountable for translating their campaign promises into actual legislation? Should social media play such a prominent role in political debates, or does it create more heat than light? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analysis of South African politics. Like this video if you found it informative, and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest coverage of the political developments that are shaping South Africa's future.